I said, I'm not gonna die. And I hit the gun and I turned to run, and all I was waiting for was to hear the sound of it and the burning in my back from the buckshots. I work well on a team because I understand if we know we gotta get you to the promised land and you're the one that the sun is shining on, we gonna get you there. As a kid, you grow up in a neighborhood where there's drugs, there's killings, there's robbings, there's stick up. Like everything is like, you gotta be vigilant. So then picking up a book and reading, you know, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe about kids that walk through a closet into some enchanted forest, I wanted that shit.
Okay, Richie, welcome to the Open Up podcast.
How are you?
Oh, thank you. Nobody's asked me that for a while. How am I? I'm really well. I've got a lot of exciting things going on.
Good.
I'm waiting for everything to be, what's it? The T's crossed and the I's dotted.
Yeah, there you go.
And we're going into birthday week, which is it's Aries season. I'm so here for Aries season.
I knew some Aries.
Yeah, I know we're powerful people.
Very powerful.
I'm just giving myself a shout out.
Very powerful.
So I'm really well, thank you.
Good to hear. You look well.
Oh, thank you. That was said in a very British accent.
Did it? I gotta go between the New York twang and the English twang.
You've been here too long now.
I've been, 12, going on 13 years now? Yeah. It's funny because when I first came to the country, no one understood me, so I kind of had to use the lingo of...
Okay, so tell us, what lingo did you pick up? I'm really intrigued.
What lingo the first one was... So I nearly got into a fight because some guy was like, "Oi, mate, you got a fag." And I said, so in New York, mate means you want to have sex. Like,
does it?
Mating season in the Serengeti. And then fag is a derogatory statement for homosexuals. So I thought that he wanted to have sex with me and was calling me a homosexual.
I mean, okay.
I mean, it was, and I threw my hands up. He was like, no, I just want a cigarette. I said, then say that then.
Can I also just say, that is literally like the most sickest story, considering you're on a podcast that's all about communication and context of language and culture.
Yeah.
Okay, so you swerved the fight.
So he swerved the fight. I was ready to two-piece him in a biscuit, but yeah.
Are you a little bit calmer these days?
Just a bit. So it's like I lived in certain areas, so it's like I kind of adopted, a little here, a little there.
Okay. So. A little less fighting, a little bit more.
Yeah, it's all about peace and love nowadays. Yeah, a lot of finesse,
So like you go by the nickname NY Shogun.
Yeah.
Did I say that right?
Yeah, New York Shogun.
Yeah, the other day I only pieced together it was New York. Don't think I should admit that.
No way, it's all right.
It's because I always see it as NY Shogun.
Yeah.
Always honesty.
Yeah, New York Shogun.
Okay, where's it come from?
So New York Shogun, I got given that name from Gold Team Fighters, which was a Brazilian team that was an extension of Shooter Box Academy. So Shooter Box at that time had the most dangerous fighters: Anderson Silva, Vanderlei Silva, Ninja, and Hua Shogun. And so when I was training with these guys, they were the ones that said that my style mimicked Shogun style. So they called me the New York Shogun. So that's how I got the name. I
feel like that's a pretty big privilege.
Yeah, it is. Like, you shouldn't give yourself a nickname like somebody, calls himself the Pit Bull. Like, you gotta get given the name.
Yeah, I gave myself mine.
You did you?
The communication expert.
You're special. No, you're special.
Okay, thanks.
You know what I mean? And you're Aries, so.
I was gonna say, it's the Aries energy. So
yeah, of course it is.
I'm definitely.
I salute it. So.
Thank you. Okay, so I think looking back at your life, you have been through so many like transitions.
Loads.
Come from like a fighting background. When I say that, I don't mean just fighting random people on the street.
No.
But this is like your area of expertise and what you do.
Yeah.
Take us back to like growing up in New York.
Yep.
What was it like?
Growing up in New York, so I'm not going to give away my age yet because then we'll have like a little surprise with it. But I grew up in New York where New York wasn't like the show Friends. And it was a beautiful place, but it was a dangerous place. So me learning how to fight, like I tell people all the time, I wasn't tough when I was a kid. I was Harry Potter in the hood, to give it context. I was the nicest kid. I loved reading books. Not that kids in my neighborhood didn't read books, but at that time, they played baseball, they played basketball. They were more sports orientated, where my parents kept me inside till I was like 9 years old. They didn't even let me outside because it was that dangerous. And
I did not know this.
Yeah, if you look at this, go on Netflix and you look at all the documentaries about like the mob and the police department that I think in Brooklyn or something that were crooked. That was an everyday thing. The police I'm scared of police even to this day, because growing up, like they would search you for no reason. They would throw you up against the wall. And then you had the gangs and everything else, or just the stick-up kids, the robbers, the drug dealers. Like, you came outside, and we're talking about, it was the real, Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, which I have a funny story with that, which is the first time they tried to rob me. That's the book I was reading on the bench. So my mom was like a hawk, bless her heart. So she let me sit on the bench by myself, and I had my skateboard, and I was just rolling my foot on it and reading my book. Next thing you know, 3 kids tried to rob me. And they were notorious. They were famous in my neighborhood for robbing people. And I look up and I'm like, hi. And my mom is watching and she starts yelling. She's like, can I curse on here?
You can curse.
She's like, motherfucker. She was like, swing that skateboard. And so then the kids got startled. And then they left, and then I came upstairs and bless my mom. Like, I could FaceTime her. She could co-sign every story. And she was like, if you don't go downstairs and find them, I'm going to beat your ass when you come upstairs. So it was like, I get robbed or get beat by my mom. So I think I was more scared of my mother. So what I did was, she doesn't even know this, I hid behind the building with my skateboard and waited for like 2 hours and acted like I looked for them. And I came upstairs and I was like, I couldn't find them. She was like, you wait till later, till your father comes home. We gonna sort this out. And sure enough, she found one of them. She used to take care of the kid in like an after school program. And so somehow found him. Next thing you know, I'm in the local Chinese restaurant with like 1,000 people from the building behind me. And my mother's going, now hit him. And I swear to you, I just went like this. And then just everybody looked at me, and that was it. They tried to make us fight and stuff like that, but I was scared. I was just scared. I'm 9 years old, you know what I mean? Everyone looked tremendous to me, and all you heard was the shootings and the stabbings and stuff. And like, let's not get on the stuff that I seen up close and personal. Like, when people say, oh my God, did you see this show on Netflix? I'm like, I don't want to watch that. I said, I grew up watching that. You people like watching it because it's exciting to you. To the ones that actually lived it, it's not exciting to us. It's one of the reasons why when I had the opportunity to experience a different country and different cultures, like there's loads of cultures in America, and New York is like, we have everything. But England's a bit different, and people that have actually traveled to countries firsthand, not just watched it through a TV show and stuff like that. So yeah, I was like, and I got embraced, especially by the fighting community over here. I got so embraced, and I was just like, yo, I love it over here. And yeah, the transition, was it easy? Yes and no, because I'm one of these people that when my heart is set on something, and I still believe in the heart, I still believe in love, and yeah, I'm gonna go for it, and may the chips fall where they may. I guess that's how you say it.
Oh my God, so British. So we're gonna come on to
trying to make the viewers at home feel comfortable.
No, you just be you. Okay, we're all about authenticity. So we're gonna talk about as well, like your transition as well between like different cultures, life in London, and like actually how your career's evolved. But going back to a couple of things you said, because there's a lot of things, right?
That's a lot of things.
Yeah, that I want to pull out. And I think it's interesting to take it back to you growing up as a kid and you saying I was the Harry Potter.
Yeah.
I was going to do an accent and I realized, 1, I'm really bad at accents.
Yep.
2, it's not going to sound anything like you. So I'm going to refrain.
Gotcha.
But you being that kid that read, that couldn't fight, your mum actually probably being the fighter, encouraging you to like hold your own.
Oh, she was. Like she was. My mom, I think 2 things my mom's like taught me, maybe 3.
Okay.
She taught me how to fight. She taught me how to make sure that I was dressed nice before I left the house. Because my mom was like, she's Puerto Rican. Like, you think J-Lo's hot. My mom back in the days, my mom is still gorgeous, but back in the days, my mom was she was. When my
can I just say that so far, at so many points in this episode, we're going to need to insert pictures. 1, I need like 9-year-old picture of you.
Oh, I got them all.
Okay,
I got
2,
them all.
80s picture of mom.
I got them all. Yeah, my mom was like Edie Chacon, like that. You know what I mean? But she could. I seen her one time. There was a badass kid in the neighborhood. So my mother was holding a baby, and this kid had a super soaker, but it was the super soaker with the pack on the back.
Yep.
And he wet everybody and nearly wet this newborn baby. My mom went into mama bear mode, and she did everything but throw the baby. Like, she said, hold the baby. And she went to fist fight this guy because everything was about respect. And it's crazy thinking about it now. It was like, there was gun violence, there was knife violence, but fighting in our neighborhood was like, you had to do it in order to earn your respect. If you didn't, if you backed down, even if you were scared, and I think that's where I'm not fearless, I'm courageous. It doesn't matter what's in front of me, I'm gonna try my best, and I'll do it scared, but I'm gonna do it. Where most people like back down and stuff, and I guess I wouldn't wish a lot of situations that I've been through for people to go through, because I don't think they'd probably live through it. But me, I was fortunate enough and blessed enough by, whatever you believe in, the higher power, that to make me through it, because I have some stories where, man, I'm blessed to be here today, just to sit here and just to have this conversation and stuff and be part of your journey. You know what I mean? It's pretty amazing.
I'm so grateful for that. And when you talk about higher power, so I always say universe, because I always hope that it like will resonate with as many people as possible. But I always say as well, like, use what's good for you. To anyone listening, like,
Absolutely.
If you believe in God, if his spirits, if his universe, whatever, higher power, whatever it is, I always say each their own. So I'm not saying you have to believe in something, but I do also say that there's something really powerful when you know that you're guided and like being held. And I think it's actually pretty lonely to feel like you've got to do everything on your own without that.
I mean, it's impossible. If you look at some situations, should I tell a story?
Go for it.
Right. So there was in the Bronx, New York, there was a club called the X Bar. And if some of the people back home are watching this, they're gonna be like, yeah, I remember. And I remember leaving the club. So it's like a ramp that leads to the exit. So which means you're kind of close up to the door. And all I remember, I'm leaving, and I seen the bouncers running through the door, and a guy just stuck a gun right through the doorway and started shooting. And I ducked down on the floor, and I could feel the bullets passing me. And I think I pissed myself because I was so scared. None of those bullets touched me. Not one of them touched me. And this guy let off a whole clip because it was around 16 shots. And I got up and I was like, yo, I'm not hit. And that's just one of many stories. Like some of my friends were just involved in stuff. And I wasn't the type to turn my back on people. And where I grew up from, loyalty is a big thing. It's why now I'm removed from that neighborhood or that, New York life, I guess. But I carry the same loyalty and the same respect. And anybody that knows me knows that I'm the most loyal person. Like, you can't, if someone spoke bad about you in front of me and you weren't there, best believe they're gonna get an earful before they leave my presence, because it's like you being there. So how could I sit here and say, break bread or be around your family and high five you, take pictures, and not be loyal to you when you're not around? So
it's actually one of the most important qualities to me.
Absolutely.
I really don't do well with it when I don't have it. So I'm glad. I'm so glad.
No, absolutely. I mean, I feel like in this generation, we sell our souls. These kids sell their souls for a piece of what? Likes, money, some validation from people that don't even care about them when they go home. So you're walking around feeling real hollow. So when you stay loyal, when you stay a stand-up person, when you put your head on that pillow at nighttime, like, you know what? Like, as a human being, I stood true to my morals. And that comes back to you. Whether you receive it right then, later on in life, it does come back to you. It's like, it's interest. It's that life's interest, and I think that's why I'm still here. So these situations that I've been through, I tell these stories to people sometimes, and it's to inspire people. It's not a book. It's my life. And to know that, the situations you go through, it may not be that bad. You know what I mean? It's just a blip in your life, and it's a lesson. And some people crumble, some people stand tall. So, but if you have good people around you, loyal, stand up, you can make it through anything. That's why I believe in a team. We all do things on our own, but at the end of the day, you need a family unit, you need a team. And that's why I work well on a team, because I understand if we know we got to get you to the promised land and you're the one that the sun is shining on, we going to get you there. And that means that we got to lose people along the way, but at least we look up and we go, yo, she made it. So my life is good.
Oh, you're going to make me so emotional. There's a few things I want to go back over, right? Because I think there's some really important kind of lessons as well. Going back, first of all, to like that one story being like one story of many stories of you being in the club. I am such a big believer of you're in the exact right moment, like you're exactly where you're meant to be, right? And that something happens to you for a reason. And I'm not saying, right, that we all need to right now like pick apart our lives and start analyzing it to that depth. But I think that when it's a life and death situation as well, but that being as well for that part of your life in that chapter, the norm, right? Like violence.
It was normal. It was the norm. Oh, that was, and it's crazy because I didn't know that it wasn't normal to come into England. That's when I was like, yo, I might need therapy. I think I actually called my mom and I was like, yo, how we grew up wasn't normal. I was like, that. I tell people these stories and sometimes you get like the cringy look or like the, oh my God.
Like I don't know how to respond.
Yeah, I don't, you know, and that's why like I smile all the time. I laugh all the time. Because that's what we had and we had each other. So if we can laugh and we can smile, then it was all right. I didn't know it wasn't normal. Did you go to therapy? No, I'm looking into it. Okay. Looking into it. Yeah. I'm gonna let you sit with that one. I know. We're gonna sit right on this pink couch. Now I'm looking into it because I feel like with certain things, like I think you need to talk to the right therapist because you might open up the door and those feelings or emotions might come out and like, what do you do with them? So like, I'm okay with what happened. I'm okay with these things. Anybody that knows me, once again, I'm still the sweetheart. I'm still that little kid that will give you half his sandwich, take the shirt off his back, will do anything I can to make sure that you're okay before I am because I learned to put others before me, you know? I actually vouch for that for you as well. Not that you asked for it or you needed it, because I think as well, if you take, let's say like your profile in terms of like career, fighting, what you did / what you do now, that actually it's probably a surprise in terms of like if you were going to stereotype somebody. Yeah. And I think as well, definitely from the first time I met you, is something that I appreciated and valued. And I think even when you talk about being surrounded by like the right people and having a network, right? And when I say network, I mean like support network, whoever it is. And sometimes for some people it's family, for some it's not. And I don't necessarily think that, I have to be so careful what I say. I'll say that matters, but it's just about like who, like is it the right people for you, the right energy? And similar morals, because similar morals and values always helps, but being able to be challenged and do things differently. And I think that definitely when I first met you, that side of you came through massively, and that it was nice to not fit like a stereotype, for example. And so when you say that, and thinking back to like when you say, like mum didn't let me go outside until like, you know, the age of 9, and actually that's like your key years of developing as well, and what you see and how you're influenced and how your belief system forms. And actually to know as well that part of that in terms of like the caring side and the nurturing side is very much the essence of like your core. There's so many things I want to ask. Like you can ask. We might have to do a part 2 on this. Look, I say to every guest so far that's come on, and I'm like, be ready for part 2. Okay. So knowing how kind of life started for you and the environment that you were in, at what point do you feel you shifted? And when I say that, I mean, not saying like you've ever lost like the caring side and let's say the Harry Potter within you, okay? But at what point then did you start transitioning into a professional fighting career? I got you. So I'm trying to, the exact moment, I think there was a series of events. So my father wound up getting cancer. And I remember, my father's my hero. And I'm trying to get the exact moment because there's a lot. Yeah, we're going to have to do a part 2 to this. So when he got cancer, and I remember I never seen my father cry at all. And I remember going into the room and I saw him tearing. And my dad was a big man, 6'7", like 300 pounds, like a linebacker. And he was just like, I'm in pain. And I'm like, what's up? And he's like, it's like my face. It feels like ants are going up and down. And then we went to the doctor. He had cancer. He had lymph node cancer, plus a tumor. So from that, things started to change because this is Superman now to me. Like, once again, people that know me, they know the stories about my dad. My dad saved 20 people from a burning building. Saved 2 cops from getting stabbed. He grabbed the knife from the guy. And these are all in newspapers. The Daily News has all of these. So they called him the hero dad. He makes a living out of it. Stopped the bank robbery with his tow truck. Saved 2 girls from getting raped. Took the gun away from the guy. Like, it was insane. So where a lot of kids didn't have their fathers in the neighborhood, I had mine. And a strong black man at that. You know what I mean? Very proud, well-spoken. But would take your head off if you disrespected his family or if you hurt anybody in our neighborhood. So when you were in trouble or somebody, you know, was bothering you, you can call Uncle Richie. And I think when he got sick and then watching him deteriorate, because cancer is a nasty illness. And when he passed away, that's when it shifted. That's when I knew I had the toughness. And I was already boxing at that time. But it got real serious the closer he got sick. So I was literally in the gym all the time. And our neighborhood, I'm from the Lower East Side, and everyone knows the Lower East Side is, you know, a very famous neighborhood. And we had some of the best fighters and some of the best fighters that never got a chance. But these guys they took me under the wing. One guy helped me with a jab. One guy stuck me on the bag, and I just threw my left until the paint chips would fall off the floor. And so I remember all of these guys at this time. And my Uncle Slam, used to run a gym. I'm smiling because my Uncle Slam, he needs his own podcast. Like, he's
we can get him on.
Yeah, he's when we're talking about like New York stories and the streets, my Uncle Slam is legendary. I want to give one story about Uncle Slam. I don't know if I can say it though, but
how bad? I say, okay, let's go for it. I don't know it, so we're here. I'm gonna learn. I'm gonna listen with our listeners.
Right.
So let's do this.
My Uncle Slam took me uptown, right? So we'll go back to my dad and where I switched. My Uncle Slam was probably he was the only person that was there for me when my father passed. He actually slept on the couch literally every night when my father passed, because my father, before he passed away, he told my Uncle Slam, he said, watch out for my boys. And he stuck to that. Oh, Uncle Slam, everything. But there's a story. I went uptown and Uncle Slam introduced me to this guy that had a missing hand. Well, half his arm was missing. And my uncle says, I said, ask him why his arm is missing.
I was waiting for this bit.
I said, why is your arm missing? I'm young at the time. He said, because I stole from your uncle when he cut it off. I know it's not funny, but this is, once again, this is growing up. This was, you know what I mean? Shout out to Uncle Slam.
Just taking a moment.
Yeah. Shout out to Uncle Slam. He said, I stole $5. He stole $5 from my uncle. So I was making loads of money. And this is, once again, the respect and loyalty. Like, why would you steal from people that are taking care of you? So this is the extreme version. But anyway, back to my dad.
That's the violent version.
Yeah, that's the violent version. Back to my dad. So when my dad got sick and stuff, and then there's a whole bunch of things that happened there. I was looking after him. You know, we didn't have the help that we needed and stuff. And we tried the best. And I always believed that he can make it. He was a strong man. And he would say, I'm living for you and your brother. So when he passed away, that was it. It was like almost like in the movie where the king dies and then the prince has to, you know, he goes into the woods and has to get tough again and then come back out and take over his kingdom. And yeah, that's kind of what happened. I mean, you want the story?
I was going to ask you, how old were you when Dad passed?
When he passed, I was 17.
Which is really young.
Yeah, I was sad. He was sick for 7 years. They gave him 6 months and he lived 7 years.
I was going to say fighter mentality.
Yeah, he, you know, it's required where I'm from is you have to fight. And it was more of he fought the physical part and then I fought the mental part and the heartache and stuff, and watching him go through that, you know. And then like he was he looked like Barry White, but just bad. Like his voice was just like, he was just a handsome dude, green eyes. That's how him and my mom met. My mother had never seen a black guy with green eyes, and they were children when they saw each other in the park. My grandfather didn't like black people. Funny enough, he's Puerto Rican, so you're African, Taino, Indian, Mayan Indian, right? So he smacked my mom's as a kid, and then years later in high school, my mother remembered him, and she said, do you remember that little girl that got smacked in the park? He was like, that was you. She's like, yeah, that was me. Because she remembered him because of the green eyes. And then they had me.
Oh my God, I love a good story like this.
Yeah, nah, there's I'll show you the pictures of them. There's
I was going to, please show me. And also though, going back to when you said your granddad didn't like black guys.
People, yeah.
But I think it's so interesting as well. It's a bit of a side note, but when we talk about race and history and culture,
and
even within minorities, minorities discriminate against minorities.
Well, I'm half black, half Puerto Rican, right? So I wasn't black enough and I wasn't Latino enough. My name is Richie Edwards, which is the most English name. So they actually call me Macho in New York. No one calls me Richard. So another thing was people thinking I was a white kid in school, so that I would. When we couldn't afford private school anymore and they sent me to public school, holy shit. It was like the movies where the kid goes into the new school and stuff. And I walked in and I remember my teacher, she, Miss Grant. Miss Grant was, she was Jewish lady. She was a sweet lady, tough but sweet. She had to be, she was in our neighborhood.
100%.
And she calls my name. She was like, Richard J. Edwards. And all you heard was, who the fuck is the white kid in the class? And I was like, here, ma'am. And they was like, oh, he called her ma'am. And she was like, and she actually cursed. She was like, you shut the fuck up. She was like, he's got respect and manners. He uses the word ma'am. And man, I told my pops, I said, Pops, I said, public school's a bit tough. And he said, I said, they were making fun of my name. He was like, son, you're going to have to hit one of them to get the respect. So I came to school the next day. And I remember the first kid that said something, pop, and then that was it. Nobody called. They gave me a little bit of respect.
So it went better than the skateboard incident.
Yeah, better than skateboard. Because at that time, I was doing karate. I wasn't doing pure boxing yet. I started karate, and that's another story. How I got into the karate. I won the Metro All-Star team, White Tiger Dojo. Super famous. Shout out to the Metro All-Stars and Hector Santiago Shidoshi, who was my first instructor, and they were the best in the world. I remember the Ninja Turtles, the first Ninja Turtle movies. The guys in the suits used to train with these guys. Yeah, and if I'm correct, I think it was the Mafia Brothers. Their name was.
Okay.
And here I am, the little chunky kid. My gi didn't even fit the belt, looked lopsided and everything. But I had heart though. Like I remember like we would like do little sparring and stuff. I'd get knocked down, but I always would just get back up. Like I wasn't athletic, I wasn't fast, I wasn't anything. I just was there trying to learn how to fight and thought it was cool because watching like Bloodsport with Van Damme and stuff. And so yeah, so that was where I got started at with those guys.
I feel like there's an element as well of like mum's spirit in you when you say, like, I wasn't athletic enough or like I wasn't the fastest. If I got knocked down, I got back up again.
Yeah.
And I feel like that comes from mum. Yeah,
my mom is pretty extraordinary. I ain't going to tell her business on this podcast. I'll tell you behind the scenes. But yeah, my mom had to learn how to fight. She had really long hair. Her hair was like past her butt. And when she was young, girls would try to pick on her. Shaka. So the girls, when she was growing up, would take the bobby pins, you guys call them grips.
Yeah.
And they have the rubber piece on the tip of them.
Yeah.
So they would melt the rubber piece where the metal would be exposed. And so when they would fight you, they would stick them between their knuckles back in the days. So they would try to cut my mother's face because she was too pretty. So they wanted to make her ugly. And that's when my mom is like, she's ferocious. Like back in the days, I used to see her like get into stuff and she would not back down. And like, yeah, even now, so my mom, a couple of years ago, she would go to church and carry a little gun with us. She carried a little 22. I joke around, I said, Ma, you got your gun in your purse? She was like, you know what I do, papito? She was like, God's gonna protect me halfway. So she have mace and a little 22 in her purse and stuff. I said, you ain't even got the clip in there. She was like, I'll pull it out, they're gonna get scared. And
I feel like mom needs a moment.
Yeah, like, she does. Yes. I actually want to do something with her because I feel like she loves to talk. So I feel like she deserves her moment. And we had a rocky relationship. It always wasn't the best, but that's my mom. So you know what I mean. And I was like, I remember she asked me one time. She was like, you still love me and care for me. I said, come on, you my pop's girl. So, so, I'm gonna do what I gotta do. You know what I mean? I'll try to do the best that I can. You know what I mean? And to be honest, I wouldn't have social media if it wasn't for back home, because I feel like it's a window for them to see. A lot of them will call me, so it's easy for them to go on Facebook and Instagram, and the messages I get is so inspiring. Like men that are, been locked up for years, that, Rich, you inspire the hood, you made it out, this, that, and the third. And I'm just like, that means a lot. So at some point, what I want to do is create a charity that goes back to my neighborhood, or I can bring people over here and stuff like that. Something.
You said it here, so that means that
it's 100% gonna happen.
Okay, it's out there in the world, right? Yeah. Now it's gonna happen. Like, I'm so here for this.
Yeah.
When you talk about people messaging you now and really giving you those messages to be like, hey, you made it out, like you're inspiring us. What happened for you to get out and have like a different life?
What happened? I was always like that. As a kid, I was a dreamer. So it's like now as an adult, it's why I watch fantasy movies and stuff like that, because as a kid, you grow up in a neighborhood where there's drugs, there's killings, there's robbings, there's stick up. Like everything is like, you gotta be vigilant. So then picking up a book and reading, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe about kids that walk through a closet into some enchanted forest, I wanted that shit. I wanted to be, you know what I mean? I was like, well, why can't the kids from the hood walk through this closet? And I'm like, it's just brick here. You know what I mean? Like, even like Santa Claus, like, we was like, Pops, there ain't no chimneys. He was like, don't worry about it. Santa gonna come to the window. But it's like, what if it's not Santa? It's like the crackhead, Pookie or something. So, for us growing up in that atmosphere, it was just like, I was a big dreamer. So a lot of times I would tell people like, dreams that I had, and, I got laughed at, even with the fighting. Even though I could fight, but fighting professionally, nah, that was and it's funny, it's a good friend, a childhood friend, about a couple of years ago, he said, I want to apologize. And I said, for what? He was like, because we all doubted you, and you did it. And I thought that meant a lot and stuff like that. But I was like, when you grow up in around those brown buildings, and this is all we have, the block, you know what I mean, that we don't own, but no one tells us that. So we thought, Jordans and a gold chain was living it up, because at that time, you just saw the drug dealers. So the drug dealers were like superstars. I mean, they had better cars than doctors and lawyers and stuff. And the only time we saw doctors and lawyers when they were coming to buy the drugs. Even the cops. People think, I remember one time, my mother had a friend, we ain't gonna say no names. And my mother, my mother says hello to the friend, and my mother looks at him and goes, he's like, oh yeah, I'm with these people here. My mother says, yo, those is cops. But they were plain clothes. He was like, yeah, I know. Because the cops were the ones that, when you go into our neighborhood, right, and you see a black or Latino kid with a German gun, with an Israeli gun, where's he getting them from? The police were bringing them into the neighborhood. So they would get them from the interrogation room, and they would sell them in the neighborhood, because obviously they knew at that time I'll show you a picture with my dad's holding me. He's got a gun on his hip, because you had to protect your home. We had a licensed shotgun that was behind the door. So it was just sitting there looking at us, because people would knock on the door, pretend to be like Jehovah's Witnesses from church or selling something. You open the door and it's a home invasion. Or you would be walking into your house and they would push you into the house. So at least we knew the gun was there. So if we needed to protect ourselves, that was normal to us.
So it goes back to what you said right at the beginning, right? That was your world. Okay?
Yeah.
And that was what was normal to you. So when even you go back to, no, I'm not going to watch it on Netflix, right? Like, I've lived it, and I don't want to also relive
Except John Wick. I like John Wick. We didn't have a John Wick in our neighborhood. So
I was like, John Wick's violent.
No, it is violent though. It's a joke.
Is.
It's a joke.
Okay.
Look, breaking up the air in here. People are going to be watching, oh my God.
Oh, you want to bring humor in now?
Yeah. I'll bring it back to where you said, where did I switch? Remember, you asked me, where did I switch? And it was when my father had passed away, to handle all those things was when the switch happened. And it was actually the moment it actually did happen was, I was going to pick up my friend Little Ralphie. Shout out to Little Ralphie. And Ralph used to cut my hair for free because I didn't have any money at that time. So Ralph used to look out for me. And this was my father was passing. And Ralphie wasn't home for some reason. and this kid tried to rob me for my gold chain, and I never wore it out. I had it inside, so he was taller than me, so I guess you can see it inside. So the neighborhood knows this story. It's one of the, like, on Facebook, someone put that, like, yo, remember when Rich fought such and such, the greatest fight? And yeah, he pulled out a sort-of shotgun out on me, and in my head I was like, I'm not dying today. Like I said, my father just passed away. I said, I'm not gonna die. And I hit the gun, and I turned to run, and all I was waiting for was to hear the sound of it and the burning in my back from the buckshots. And I never heard the gunshot. And I ran across, I was like Bugs Bunny across that street, like the roadrunner, me. And I made it across the street, turned around, and all I see was him and his, like, he had an army, like a jacket like this. And it was summertime. It was like 12 in the afternoon. Then ran to the barbershop. I don't know why I ran to the barbershop. I just knew that's where the older guys were, like the, you know, the big brothers were. Yeah. And I was like, they tried to rob me. They tried to rob me. Who? And I was like, I don't know. He looked like this. So everyone got on bikes and they tried to, bicycles, and then we tried to look for them. And then this is how funny how things happen. Like the neighborhood can get you like in trouble. So someone said to me, this person was the one that tried to rob you. So I was going around saying this person tried to rob me. Lo and behold, the person's name I was saying was like a murderer. And then someone came to us like, Rich, it's not that person. And I was like, oh shit. I was like, oh, I hope they don't hear it. And my cousin Taiwan, we were sitting in front. I was going to a summer camp to work with children because I loved working with children. And before my father passed, he was just like, yo, he's like, you love working with kids. Make sure you go to the camp for the summertime. So, and it was like, it took me out the neighborhood. And my cousin Taiwan comes with the guy. And the guy sees me and his eyes light up. He sees everybody I'm around. So then he goes and reaches for his waistband. So we all back up and like he runs, and this is where like time to be a man now. And so we went to his building complex. And so it was basically like the people that run the block, where they were drug dealers, stick up kids, the tough guys of the block. And they knew they were more powerful than the people on his side. Okay. So they said, listen, him and Rich are going to fight one-on-one. And that's it. I was so scared. So this kid didn't want to. He was like, I've been fighting people all week, this, that, and the third. I'm not fighting you. Now, mind you, I'm still the cupcake inside, right? So I have to like just hit this guy randomly. So I'm trying to act tough, like, but mind you, I'm boxing. I'm going to the boxing gym. I've had street fights, but this was a bit much for me. And then one of my friends has a gun on him, and so he's got like a handkerchief over it. So I'm going, the little kid in me wants to just start crying, and I'm like, well, I don't know what's going on here. So then we start yelling at the kid. Then somebody whispers in my ear, he's never gonna respect you. He was like, you got to do something. And I
feel so tense listening to this
story. Oh no, it was I'm reliving it now. He runs upstairs and then somehow comes back downstairs with a machete, and then chases one of my friends that chased him upstairs to come make him fight me. Mind you, this guy is big. He was a huge kid. I was real skinny at the time. I mean, I could fight, but I was skinny at the time. I'm used to fighting in a gym, not out in the streets and stuff like that. Like little scraps here and there, but nothing of this magnitude where I have some of the toughest people in the neighborhood. Anyway, this is like the movie, you know, where you watch like the after school specials where the kid's life changes. So then I go back home, and we had guns in the house. You know, my dad, you know, we collected guns, and I grabbed the gun. And I'm tearing up because I'm like, this is how it's going to end. I said, this is how my life's going to end, because I can't walk these streets unless I do something to this guy. And then I started praying. I started talking to my pops or something. I don't know what. Then next thing you know, my cousin Taiwan, he's like, come downstairs. You're going to fight him. Leave the gun upstairs. And that was a sign of relief. I was like, thank goodness. And so I'm walking through the back of the building. So in the Lower East Side, you have the FDR Drive, and it's very dark over there. And it just feels like evil. And I'm just praying the whole time and trying to keep it together. I get to the park where everyone's at. And it's now they called everyone and their grandmother. And I'm like, you're going to have to do this, Rich. And I'm whispering to my friends, let's jump him. Like it was like a movie, right? I'm like, let's jump him. No one was listening to me.
I literally feel like I'm listening to a scene.
Yeah, no one was listening to me. And then I remember the biggest pit bull I've ever seen. I thought it was a bear. and his friends had this dog, and the dog was growling. So the dog looked like a demon bear or something. So then the guy says, "Don't worry, such and such. The dog got you." Then my friend from my building, he pulls out a gun and says, "Don't worry, Mach. I got the dog." And I'm like, I just want to cry and get ice cream. I get into the park. Long story short, he threw a punch. I weaved it, and I destroyed him. Absolutely destroyed him. Yeah, it was bad. His teeth were knocked out. His eye socket was broke. He was on drugs. They said he did cocaine before I got to the park to amp himself up. And so he did not fall. And I hit him with everything I had, and it was still ready to go. And the cops came, and we had to run because I didn't want to get locked up. The cops came and they asked him, "Who jumped you?" And they said, "Nah, no one jumped him. It was one guy that fought him." And I just remember my friend dragging me, and I had blood all over me because he was bleeding profusely. And they dragged me to the hospital to go get like an AIDS test and everything else because they didn't know with the blood. And they got me home, and I busted out in tears. I started crying my eyes out and just like calling for my dad, because I was like, so this is where everything changed, because I was like, is this what I'm in for? Yeah, that was the moment.
Okay.
I know it's a lot. Sorry.
No,
you might need therapy after this podcast.
You don't need to apologize, okay? We are here for this. And you're right that in terms of that was your world and that was normal, right? And lots of people haven't lived this experience. But even knowing, right, that turning point and dad passing and you fighting to like extreme levels, right? This is not a say casual fight. You can't even use those two words together. But the extremities of it are at that end of the scale, right? Even then, though, knowing that like you're doing it more from a place of necessity rather than, oh, I really enjoy this. And then you turning this into a career.
Crazy, right?
Where you're professionally fighting.
Man.
Do you think you've ever lost that like inner child that doesn't want to, that you call a cupcake?
Cupcake.
That doesn't want to fight.
It's pretty tough.
How have you made a career out of it?
I made a career out of it. I think it's funny. I think it's helped, and then part of it has held me back because I wanted to be a world champion. You know what I mean? And I did win the title. But to take it to that next level, I think maybe I didn't have to keep fighting. Maybe I didn't have to, life. And it's probably the first time.
That hit me, by the way.
It's probably the first time that I've actually said that out loud. And because most people don't ask. Everybody just assumes that, oh, Rich is good. You know what I mean? He's strong. He's this and that. And obviously because I'm older and it seems like everybody I'm around is younger. So, but it's kind of always been like that. No one actually asked me if I'm okay. So I kind of had to just self-soothe and just take care of the cupcake, because we all have that inner child. And so that would be my therapy books and stuff like that. Like if you look at the little kid that you were, would you take care of him? So I think part of the fighting professionally was protecting that little kid, because we not in that neighborhood no more. So who we fighting? So let's go fight some of the best guys in the world. Let's go to the best training camps in the world and stuff. And it's created a platform for me where, I earn a great living training people and stuff. And I would love to turn out fighters, because I can get into someone's head. World experience. This is not a certification. I've stepped in that cage, and I remember going to Scotland. That was my first fight, going to Scotland and fighting the best Thai boxer in Scotland. That Thai boxers in this country were like, you're nuts. But, we turned it around to go back there, gunshots and everything else. So we might as well fight one guy in a cage. So no matter who they put in front of me, I was going to fight, win or lose and stuff like that. And it was tough, because when you lost, it was like no one was buying you a drink. You felt like my last fight that I had, I remember saying to everyone, I was so in shock that I had lost that I was like, I'm sorry. I kept saying sorry to everyone in the crowd. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And they were like, well, what are you saying sorry for? And I'm like, I let y'all down, not myself. I said, who was I doing this for? Yeah. And I think maybe I lost sight of it. And then it's a business. So you got to get sponsorships. You got to make money. You got to this and that. And like, when you do it all yourself, you get lost in it. You got to show up at 10 o'clock to the gym. There's 30 killers on that mat. And you go to GB Top Team. Before that, it was Team Titan. And I used to train with at Kettle's Gym, Double K, Charlie Boy Peters. I've been part of some of his camps. We punched each other in the face quite hard, and he would low kick the shit out of me. But yeah, especially in this country, that because England at the time was respected but wasn't respected in MMA at the time. So the sparring sessions were like fights. And then mind you, I came to this country, I got my bag with me, and I'm walking into all the best gyms, and I have to spar the best guys. And they was just like, oh, we're gonna eat him. They just looking at me going, and a lot of, people look like He-Man, they're on steroids and stuff, and the muscles on their forehead. I'm like, okay, so here we go. So it was like having to gain the respect, and then trying to put together a decent camp to be able to get to the top of the league, because you need a team, you need family. Most of the guys that have made it or are in the UFC have a good unit, and they know it. They've got a really, really good unit of people that are around them, which they can lose and come back, because it doesn't matter whether they win or lose to these people, because they're there to support them. But I think when you're by yourself, you don't know who's around you and why they're around you for, because most people just see dollar signs. Most people see a way out for themselves. So yeah, you do the hard part. You go into that cage and you fight, or the ring and you fight, and I'll take my little percentage off you and stuff like that. So yeah.
Okay, I'm going to rewind a bit, because
I know it's a lot.
No, but you drop in really important points. I'm just recapping. I'm just pulling out the bits that are
recapping. I like that.
Yeah, I'm just highlighting to make sure that we don't get lost in like everything that you're saying for us.
Yeah.
Going back to when you said, I'm reading my therapy books and like my inner child, but it's such an important part. And even when you said, actually, like, I'm not sure that I thought about that.
I feel like I'm turning into the cupcake as I'm sitting here.
It's all right. You can put your shoulders back. Like, you're good.
Sit up. Spread my wings.
But also, I know we're weaving in humor, right? But it's also your life, and you've lived it. Yeah. And it's also, it goes back to, I'm going to keep going back to this point, but when you talk about like a Netflix show, for example, like it is going to bring things up for you. That was like the least English sentence ever. I mean, it's going to bring things back up for you when you tell it, right? And as much as you would have processed to a certain extent, to actually retell a story, your brain as well won't know whether it's like the present or not. To your brain, it's like, oh, we're going through that experience.
Oh no, yeah,
again.
I feel like I'm like,
you're like,
we need to get holy water after this.
Like,
because as I'm talking about it, I can see and everything in detail and stuff like that. And it's, if I don't remind myself of what I've been through, I'm never gonna make it as far as I want to go. So those stories, sometimes they're ingrained in your brain, and because you got to respect it. You got to respect the past. You got to respect these situations. There's people that have lost their life for lesser. The fact that I can sit here and laugh about this stuff, man, is incredible. Absolutely incredible.
And I think you've got like a deep sense of gratitude. You've said it before as well, to like sit here for us to have this conversation. And going back to when you talked about your inner child and okay, what did the younger version or that little boy of you want or need? And actually it's like the nurturing and how it feels. Please correct this if any of this is not right.
I got you.
But yeah, how it feels is that, okay, you needed to protect him. And so in order to do that, you turned to fighting. And whilst like it sounds like growing up, it was a necessity, that wasn't really, I don't like saying the sentence, it wasn't a choice. And I'm not even going to explain that sentence right now, but it was a necessity. It was part of your life in order to be able to survive. And you knowing or like being able to join those dots to say, yeah, okay, well, that's kind of like the trigger, or there's a few triggers that enabled you to say, all right, cool, we're not going to go back to that position. We're not going to go back to being that kid that got picked on or okay, we're going to learn to fight. We're going to learn to protect ourselves. Where does fighting feature in your life now on a professional level?
On a professional level, it's still there. I want to have at least one fight this year. I have great teammates, and the ones that I'm really close to, they're just like, Rich, like, bro, like, you just get better. And I'm like, I know, it's just because of earning a living and creating the business and with the clients and everything else, it takes up a lot of my time. So a lot of these young guys aren't working. They're not, doing much, so they can afford to do that. Where, living in this neighborhood, especially, like, It is expensive. And then, like, you know, we're going through a recession. So, you know what I mean? You can't turn down anything. And, you know, I have moms that needs help. So the goal is to make sure that that lady can live out her life, the rest of her life comfortably. I have a nephew that I want to bring over here and show him the world. And I don't want him to even think about a struggle. You know, when he gets older, what do you want to do? His, you know, school money. I know my brother got him, but his uncle Rich, you know what I mean, has left that. So I have a different aspect to add to his life. So that's important to me. But yeah, fighting is number one, but like it had to kind of be number two for a little bit. But I'm still training and stuff like that. I still got it. I still whoop ass.
Look, we're ready, okay? When you're ready, we're there watching, supporting.
No, 100%. So, you know, I think that maybe December we'll take a fight on December, because I don't want to disrespect the infighting. It goes back to my favorite quote: victories reserved for those willing to pay the price. My Sun Tzu. And that's always been my quote, because you have to pay a price. You have to sacrifice. And people say, oh, it's not a sacrifice if you want to do it. No, it's a sacrifice. You have to sacrifice some things in order to get the job done. And the last thing you want is to, especially in this era, 10 rounds in the bag, just train with the best team, and you're not putting in that work. The ring of the cage is the most honest place I've ever been, because who you are shows up. If you didn't put in the work, if you're a coward, if you're fearful, it's going to show up. And I think it's been my biggest therapy, because I've had to put myself through training camps where I was tired. I didn't have my first fight in this country. I fought in Essex. I fought in the Leisure Center against Danny Lawson. Shout out Danny Lawson. And I wrote in a book what round I was going to win, how I was going to win. And that's exactly how I whooped his ass.
I'm just going to say manifestation to
and I saw it.
And
I didn't have no money to get to training. I must have made it to training. The technique, I think they took the video down, but I used the wrestling technique that I learned the week before the fight. And that's what changed the fight for me, and then wind up winning. And that was just like, yo, we can do this. And then I actually fought him again for the title. He came to our team, he won the title, and then left the team, and then it was my job to get it back. And so I got it back, and yeah, he said the Yank was going to get spanked. And then bless him, he's a good fighter. I think he went like 9 undefeated after we fought. And I remember he's a good family. His mom came to me, she's like, oh, can you talk to him after the fight and stuff? And he's a good fighter. I was just like, brother, I just wanted it more. That was it. I always wanted it more, and I was willing to break my body to get there, because it's all I knew. I didn't know no one taught me any different. It was just like, okay. And it's how I got a lot of injuries as well, because like if I didn't have the technique, what was I supposed to do? Just give up? So I would literally break my arm or tear a ligament to get it out.
My poor heart.
Yeah. When I went for the UFC, the first lightweight UFC show, and I remember having to do the grappling part, which was jiu-jitsu, and I had never done jiu-jitsu in my life. And I got on the floor, I'm on top, I'm moving around, and this guy locks my knee up in a knee bar, and I just yanked it out, and it sounded like a bat broke in the room, and I thought my leg snapped, and I looked at my leg, I was like, oh, it's still there, and I went after him. And then I remember Dana White, and that was Kenny Florian, that was one of the judges. They said, dude, your leg. And I was like, oh, it's fine. But it was a ligament. I think it was my MCL. Hour later, I couldn't even walk. So what I did was I wrapped duct tape around it, because I wanted to get into the house. I didn't want to give up. So I wrapped duct tape around it and pulled my shorts down a little bit to hide the tape on my knee. And so then we had to hit pads. I've been, boxing and kickboxing for years. And so that was easy. And out of the 500 guys that went to audition, I was in the top 30. And so then they didn't call me to actually get on the show. And I grabbed Dana White and I said, I can do this. Like, just, he said, bro, he said, Spike TV said you didn't have any pro fights. And if I would have lied on the application, I would have got in the house. And I was so heartbroken, because I was like, this is going to change my family's life and stuff like that. So there's been a couple of stories like that, but that was when I actually tried to get into the UFC the first time before coming over here.
I'm like, we need to take a moment. I'm sorry, I can't just ask like the next question without us taking like a moment of appreciation. So knowing then that like, all right, that's what New York life looked and felt like for you. I say felt like like we were there. We got a drop of the ocean today. And then you've made the transition to London. And you've been here for I'm going to say this last chapter of your life. Why London?
Why I came here?
Yeah.
So every great story starts with a girl. It's my favorite line.
You're making this podcast a movie.
Yeah, well, listen, it's, we gotta just,
I love it.
My sister's podcast, so we gotta get it popping. We're gonna get views on this. They gonna be like, this is like Oprah to me right here. You know what I mean? You do my Oprah. You know what I mean?
I mean, I'm gonna take that. So
yeah, that's a compliment. You crazy. Oprah interview everybody. So.
That.
I
feel like you're giving me like too high an accolade.
Nah, but we got to big each other up, right? If we don't like that, I feel like we live in a society where like we listen to people, and then when you start talking, it's just like the birds are chirping, and so then it's like, oh, so I don't matter. So it's just you get the steam, or you get the motivation or whatever. You use me for my energy, but then that's not reciprocated. And I see that so many times. There's so many times where it's just like, I'll just stay quiet. I think it's why I talk a lot when people actually do talk to me, because I listen so well that people don't even bother to ask. That's why I say, how you doing? Because like you said, who asks how you doing? Most people don't. You go, how you doing? They go, well, this happened to me today. Starbucks didn't have the macchiato frappe, or, they didn't, and I'm just like, oh, okay, all right, cool. God bless. Jesus loves you.
While you raise that point, before you come back onto your love story.
Gotcha. I didn't even say it was a love story.
I'm putting it out there because you can't sit on this couch and us not talk about it.
Yeah,
okay?
we can.
But what I did want to say is, because this is really important. I think one of the biggest things when I talk about communicating that as humans that we do so badly is listen.
Yeah.
And like all of us, like I want every single one of us to own it, because even when you reflect now and say, oh, I think that's maybe when someone does ask me, then I'll talk a lot because actually I listen so well. Yeah. And it's like this mismatch of all of us as humans, right, at our core, want to feel seen, heard, and understood.
Absolutely.
And the way that we communicate with each other is so incredible. I mean, this is why I have my whole entire business, right? But it's so incredibly important. And no one teaches us like how to do it well. Yep. And there's so much nuance around it as well. But I truly, like at the core, I deeply, deeply believe that if we actually all learn how to listen, properly, like to our actual core, without wanting to respond, without wanting to share a story. And I'm not saying that in a conversation you're listening and that you can never ever share a situation that's been similar. But as soon as you do, you take the focus off of, like, you're not listening, right? Or you're worrying about your to-do list, or you've got to go pick up the kids, like I think, and especially as well, add on today's world in terms of like technology and distractions, it's just magnified.
Well, that's a perfect point, because we have all these platforms for communication, but we don't listen. It's just look at me.
Someone literally just messaged me about this exact topic, and they're writing an article on it. Yeah. And it's around like, we've probably got the most modes of communication. Absolutely. And how do we if I'm going to generalize, feel like so disconnected from each other. Yeah.
It's because no one's connecting with themselves. In order to
Wait, please say that again.
Because no one's connecting with themselves.
Yes. Because I really bang on about this point so much. Like, you have to be able to communicate with yourself to understand like who you are, what your authentic voice is, how you express, open up, like deal with your emotions. That doesn't mean suppress them. That doesn't mean you have to sit in them all the time, but be able to feel them and move through them before you can do anything else.
And that goes into, if you know who you are and you're secure who you are, then you know how to listen, because you're not waiting for some sort of cookie in life to go, oh my God, yeah, you're so great. You're this, that, and the third. You know what? You're great. I'm proud of you.
Thanks.
You get what I'm saying? And it's why, like, it's what makes me successful with my clients. Because my clients is, even though they pay me for the time, but I'm there to listen. I'm there to support them. And like, if you talk to any of them and I have these conversations, I'm like, whether I train them or not, I'm always going to be there for them. And there's situations that for some of my clients, I've been there for them. And like, ones that could have changed their lives forever. And had they not had that support, because it's more than, you can lift weights, you can box, you can do whatever, but if you don't do the groundwork internally and do some soul searching, where we ask ourselves the hard questions, and then we face those moments, and then we do what's needed to pick up and move forward, and ultimately fight our way through, those battles, then you're gonna stay stuck there forever, and you won't ever evolve, and you'll stay disconnected with yourself. So it's like, I'm a man, so like if a man's that's disconnected with himself, how can he be a better husband? How can he be a better father? He can't communicate with his children. He can't communicate with his spouse what he's feeling. But then it also takes, the women to listen to him and to go, you know what, I hear you, but now we got to do something about it. And then that's where the healing, where the growth starts. And this will come perfectly right into the love story.
You go for it.
Yes, every great story starts with a woman. So my ex-wife, shout out to her. She's an amazing girl. Yeah, we grew apart. She had a business at the time that, she's an amazing hairdresser. She's like wicked. And yeah, like I just, she said it to me. She apologized to me for forgetting me. And it was cool, because I know that when you don't have something and you have it for the first time, when you're successful, you don't know how to deal with it. And so I tried to show the best support that I could at the time. At that time, I also realized she didn't have the necessary tools from her, what she was around, and to communicate what she was going through. And, there was a bit of disagreement, a bit of disrespect. And so I just chose to, I came here for love. Like, I can admit it, because that love is the most powerful force. I mean, any parent will tell you that when their child's born, when they see it, or some people, because some people can't stand their kids. But when you see a child, it's like this selflessness, your life becomes that child and stuff. And so I believe when you're in a relationship with a person, they say, oh, you can't give your all. Like, since when? If I'm with somebody, I'm gonna give them my all. Who else I'm giving the other half to? It's called a unionship for a reason. If we're together, it's for a reason. Oh, you have to have your separate life. Cool, you can have a balance and stuff like that. But like, you my boo-boo. So, you know what I mean? Like, I want to do things with you. If I'm going out, I'm going to, on the weekend with my boys and stuff like that. Nah, come. My girl should be my best friend. Like, granted, she can't come all the time, but, like, yo, like, that's, some women are the realest, realer than men. And if you find the right one, that's your ace in the hole. If you look at the animal kingdom, the female is always the strongest one in the pack.
I'm just going to say yes.
You know what I mean? So, if you find yourself the right woman, and she make you a better man. So, unfortunately, the situation didn't work out and stuff like that. And I felt that I had worked hard enough over here and created some stuff. And like all this stuff that we talked about, I'm not going to abandon the life that I created here. So that's why I chose to stay. And plus, like, no one was going, come back home. You know what I mean? Because they was a bit upset that I had left in the first place. Because it's like, oh, you leaving us. How you going to leave us? And I feel bad, that I did, but they didn't communicate with me, stay. They didn't communicate, we don't want you to go. So I kind of felt like a bit unwanted a bit, and then, they all know how important my father was to me. So it's kind of feeling like the little kid that sits on the bench waiting for him to come pick him up from school. So.
That is so powerful.
Yeah. So we moved forward, and I watched him go through the best and the worst moment, and I was there. I held him in my arms when he passed, my brother and I. And so, there was no way I'm going to give up. So a lot of guys and girls, when a relationship happens, their world falls apart. And I'm just like, it hurts like hell, but I'm like, and divorce is no joke. Breakup's no joke. But yeah, I'm going to move forward. You know what I mean? I'm the guy that gets shot 10 times and I'm like, I still got it. I'm still moving, bitch. So
when you look back at your marriage now and you look at yourself, what do you think's like been maybe one of your biggest lessons about you, like what you found out about yourself?
My biggest lesson? My biggest lesson, I don't know, there's a few, I guess. I can do it. I can do it. I can do it no matter what. I mean, to anybody that's listening to this podcast, no matter what you're going through, you're going to find yourself if you're looking. You know what I mean? If you're not and you're waiting for somebody to save you, no one's coming to save you. And if they do, you just gave them the key to your happiness. And when they decide to want to throw it away or they get tired of it, you're going to find yourself in the same position again. So you might as well run towards the pain and fight through it. Because that's where the growth happens. I know, Jules, I told you.
I'm not even adding anything else.
I told you.
Okay, so before we wrap up this incredible episode that I'm so
We're going to need a part 2. I'm coming back, definitely.
I'm so glad you want to come back.
Yeah, it's 2 minutes there. I told you the flow is going to be crazy on this. It's like, I feel like I'm on the block right now talking to Tita.
Yeah. I'm here for all the praise.
Yeah, okay? but the thing is we here to motivate and uplift. So like I said, like support you, salute you and stuff like that. So it should be fun. Why should this be, you know what I mean? Like some boring episode. Not saying that no one else is going to be boring and stuff.
Look, everyone that sits here is, we don't even
top
produce
notch.
A boring episode.
You're crazy.
Okay?
It's a bit
getting
cushioned. Yeah, it's some heavy hitters been in these seats. I'm just saying I'm laying my stamp on right now.
Oh, so. You did that. Okay, you did that. So before we wrap up, 3 questions I ask every single guest.
Gotcha.
It can be anything you said already. It can be something completely new.
Okay.
I feel like I know what your answer is going to be, but I don't like saying that. All right.
Okay, what are you, Cleo, the psychic?
Sometimes, yeah. I'm super intuitive.
Okay.
Like very intuitive.
And most women are.
First question.
Gotcha.
What's your favorite quote, or I call it like food for thought, that you want to leave our listeners with?
Yeah.
It's a thing that like's going to marinate in their minds, that they're going to think about.
Oh, what I said before, victory is reserved for those willing to pay the price.
I just love that quote so deeply.
Yeah, it's a strong one.
So deeply.
It's harsh, but it's the truth though. We all gotta, there's a balance to everything. You gotta pay for something. You know what I mean? You gotta pay for something.
Okay, question number 2. Practical tip that you want to share.
Practical tip? Love yourself. Love yourself.
I'm going to get you to expand on that.
I can expand on it.
In terms of, I was going to say, give us one way that you love yourself.
Oh, one way that I love myself.
Yeah.
Are there kids listening? No, I'm joking. I'm joking. Lightening the moves. A lot of shootings and death in this podcast. So we, little Kevin Hart on there, just a sprinkle.
I'm here for it. Okay, yeah, I felt the sprinkle.
How I take care of myself? I sit in silence. I meditate. I pray. I reflect. I don't dwell, but I reflect. And then I go, Rich, how can we do that better? How you feeling? I check in with myself.
Love that.
Yeah.
Loved it.
I don't need therapy. You crazy? I got this. I check in with myself.
Hey, we're going to talk, yeah?
No, I need therapy. I need therapy. I want my mom's. It'd be funny to see me with my mom's in therapy and shit, because my moms were like, no, that didn't happen. I'll be like, you lying.
Okay, I'm not even going to say anything because that's going to open up a whole episode. No, I know, I'm just going to let you know we're coming back to that point. Okay, last but not least.
Yeah.
A resource that you want to share. So it can be a book, a show, a podcast.
A show.
Or just something that's resonated with you, that's helped you.
Good people. Successful people. People, surround yourself with people that got good hearts, are successful, and even it doesn't have to be the money they have. It has to be the watch they have, their clothes. Success is whatever makes you happy, whatever makes you rich in heart. If you're able to inspire people and people feel good around you and you feel good around them, then that's currency. It's all. But this money metric system is whack. Money. People kill each other for it. They take over nations for it. They lie. They cheat for it. So why? I mean, we need it.
It's a resource.
It's a necessary evil for the way the world is set up. But currency, happiness. Surround yourself with some awesome people, whether they're great at crocheting or their dogs love them. That's a good sign. If animals love someone, and babies. You ever give a baby to somebody and they start crying? They ain't good. And I'm joking.
I'm like, oh my gosh, that's happened to me.
Yeah, but
I'm a good person.
Yeah, surround yourself with good people. Good people fill your cup.
I love that. I want to say thank you with my whole heart and soul.
Thank you, sis.
I appreciate the honesty, the openness, and I'm going to be taking in those stories because I feel like...
those are the light ones as well. Off camera, I'll tell you some crazy ones. But yeah.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.